Hello, I'm Dr. Rick Chambers, and welcome to this edition of Health, Happiness, and Harmony Partner Training videos. I've done several videos that are more curriculum or knowledge based. This is my first how to video that begins to get at what I did through the years practicing psychotherapy and counseling. My degree is a Doctor of Education in Counselor Education. But I never really worked in that capacity. I spent over 30 years doing psychotherapy, but also could never get the academic professional world interested in things I had learned through actually doing therapy. And what I'd like to teach today is a how to, but not how to do psychotherapy, counseling, but how to be helpful to another person in a conversation, or even how to be helpful within yourself, reflecting on yourself. And the first step is moving from general psychology, things like you could find in psychology today, general knowledge about psychology, perhaps research based, into understanding individual consciousness in a specific situation. And Carl Jung, as usual, had a quote: in order to do psychotherapy, you must understand and know. And you must do one without losing sight of the other. So, general psychology could be things that you know. Individual consciousness requires understanding. I also call what I start with the MRI of the mind, not of the brain, but of the mind. And the best way to be helpful to a person is kind of with this question: what's on your mind? Not what's on your brain, what's on your mind. And this is not free association, it's not taking a history, doing a diagnosis, doing an assessment. Um, but if a person begins to talk, what will happen? They will begin with this question: what's on your mind? They eventually come to something that the mind is struggling to metabolize, um, something the mind is struggling to like process or understand. You could say it's where the mind is kind of hung up. These are the sources of our hangups. And they're valuable to talk about, or it's the most productive thing to talk about with a person. What you will get is eventually like a problematic feeling or thought, or even more helpful is a problematic event. And it's still on the person's mind because they can't like kind of file it away in a way that brings peace. And as they describe this, I try to get the context, like what was happening before, what are the relationships. So you move prior to the event, then you get the explanation of the event by asking what happened then? What happened then? You continue to ask what happened then until you get something that feels like closure. And now you've got the whole event. And then you could think of this as like drawing a box. So a box with four sides. And on one side you write actions, another side thoughts. And thoughts can be explicit or implicit, feelings and perceptions. And as you talk about it or explore this box, there would be what the person reports, what they're aware of, conscious of. But as you explore it, you may begin to move things from that the person's not conscious of, but as you discuss it, they become conscious of, like what their thoughts were, what their perceptions were, what their feelings are or were in the event or situation. And as you're doing this, the other most important thing is therapists call it rapport. You calmly, this is where Rogerian counseling comes in handy. Um, it's important to remain calm, so to calmly explore non-judgmentally. This is what Carl Rogers meant by unconditional positive regard and acceptance. And what you're really trying to do, and this is where the brain interacts it, is keep the amygdala from firing. If you lose rapport, if the amygdala in the brain fires, the person moves from looking at the box to being caught in the box again. They're re-experiencing the event or situation with all of the negative thoughts and feelings and perceptions and maybe even actions associated with this. And so with language and relationship, you build rapport or try to hold rapport that allows the person to cautiously explore negative feelings, thoughts, and events in their life. What you're actually doing, there's the stream of consciousness. You can't do this in real time. You're pulling something out of the stream of consciousness and creating a temporary structure that you can kind of get your hands on. And so I call this either an event box, but it is also a consciousness box. That in stream of consciousness, actions, thoughts, feelings, perceptions are always present, interpenetrating, and they're inseparable. They co-occur, and they're all entangled with each other. You have to step out of action to begin to kind of sort these things out. Or as I say in the mind, a mental problem is like a knot. You kind of have to untie the knot, or like I'm working on a puzzle, separate the pieces out. And there are always these elements of thoughts, actions, perceptions, and feelings. In a way, psychology through the years, historically, there was, at first, there was a big emphasis on behavior, behavioral therapy. And then people began to put like behavior, or the field began to see, well, there's behavior and thoughts. And so cognitive behavioral therapy was a great improvement over behavioral therapy alone. And so I would say the field, as a field, we're halfway there. Until you connect feelings and perceptions to make a complete like box or understanding of what's happening, you're only halfway there. So thank you very much.